way through those, and now he's hanging in there like all of us.
Let's talk a little bit about what we're doing in these promos back and forth, because Terry wrote about this in his book. He says Flair was really bothered by this stuff, and I was told to tone it down a little bit. I didn't see the problem because I was the heel. The ending was going to be that Flair was going to kick my ass. I sure wasn't going to say all these outrageous things only to beat up Ric Flair and then go home and hang up my tights. I don't know if Flair was upset because he was insecure or because he wasn't there. You see, he was home selling the injury angle, and all he knew about was what I was doing and when he saw it on TV. All he saw was me blasting him every week. With all the divisions in WCW at that time, I wouldn't be surprised if he thought I was working on behalf of someone else there to make him look bad. He had been having his problems with Jim Herd even then, fighting over his contract, which Herd thought was too much money for him to make, and all that stuff was done to create a heated atmosphere for our match. So, do you remember, being at home and thinking, all right, the yellow stripe and challenging my manhood,
No,
some of this
no.
is,
What the last part he said is accurate. It was all Jim Herd.
yeah.
Yeah, it was just all Jim Herd. No, I was never mad at Terry. I thought it was great TV.
Did the
I was
paranoia
never,
in
and
WCW?
we've always had phenomenal chemistry. I could tell you some stories about Terry Funk that would get us the number one ranking in a podcast about how much fun I've had with him. I'm a character, he's a character. No. My only problem, is, as you know, and God, people don't even begin to understand, there are only two real big problems I've ever had in this damn business were Jim Herd and Eric Bischoff.
Yeah.
And it just all around WCW. And, it's, I don't know what to say about it. But absolutely, I was never mad at Terry. No, we've never been at a cross word, man.
Do you think
I
the
idolized Terry. I'll tell you how bad it was. I used to travel with Terry when he was an NWA champion. And then he came into the Carolinas. I'd go, think I'll be champion? He said, yeah, you will. Take your time. I said, when? I would drive him crazy. I said, how do I go? What can I do to be better to be a champion? He like tutored me as we drank our way across the Carolinas and Virginias.
I love it.
Hey, Greg Valentine bought a brand new Olds 98. Remember those?
Yeah, I do.
And we bought 10 of those Foster Lager beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was me, Jimmy Crockett, Terry, and Greg Valentine. And we bought a bottle of Everclear, and then we had, Miller Lite and all that stuff, right? And we're riding down the highway, and Funk is lighting Greg Valentine's hair on fire from the back seat.
Oh my God.
And we pulled up to an area, Megan will know this, called Monroe Road in Sharon Avenue, and Funk get out of the car completely naked. He's got the NWA belt on. He's standing in the intersection at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's no cars, thank God. And of course, that's when everybody was drinking and driving, which I'm certainly not condoning now by any means. So we go back to my house, and I had a pit bull that Megan knows, and a half pit bull and half bull mastiff. And he was such an athletic dog, he jumped over the privacy fence and came out and he bit Funk on the nose.
Oh my God.
So you can ask Leslie this story. So we go inside the house, and Everclear, it made me sick. I got sick. Terry's he took a knife out of the knife stand, out of the carving stand,
Yeah.
and was crawling around on his hands and knees naked in the backyard of my house, trying to catch the dog. I was laying on the floor, I'd taken Megan and I had taken Megan and put her under the bed and told the babysitter to go home. And Leslie walked in. I paid the babysitter extra, and closed Megan's door. That's what it was. And Leslie came home and said she had 2 friends, and she goes, "So, this is I'd like you to meet my husband. I'm laying there covered in whatever." And that's the world champion from the company he works for. Leslie took all my stuff and threw it out in the front yard of the house. Threw every bit of clothing I had. And somehow the next thing I knew, I woke up in the downtown. Funk was on a plane to another town, and I had no home. walked outside and with my silver Eldorado, and I don't remember how we got there. That's not funny. I do not remember how the hell we got there. Yeah, that's
What a
Terry
life.
Funk. I got a lot more of those too.
The visual of Terry Funk crawling around naked in the yard trying to fight with the dog with a knife in
Yeah,
his mouth,
yeah,
and your wife saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, girls, I'd like to introduce you to my husband there, covered in
yep.
whatever," and out there in the yard playing with the dog naked, and a knife in his mouth. That's the world champion.
Champion of the company that my husband works for. She took all my clothes. Call her when you get off the podcast and ask
Oh,
her.
she's told me the story before.
Oh, she has. Okay.
Anytime Terry Funk comes up, or she'll ask about, "Hey, how are the old guys doing?" And she'll run through a list, and she'll ask about Terry Funk, and I'll give her an update, and then she'll go, "Did you know?" There you
Yeah.
go.
Hey, and then Harley raised. Harley came over for Thanksgiving all the time. Steamboat came over. I mean, Megan was entertained by some of the greatest of all time. Jack Briscoe.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the next piece of business here, which is going to be a Thunderdome cage match. It's
Mhm.
between you and Sting taking on Muda and Funk. There's fire at the beginning of the match. It just goes downhill from there. It's not well thought out on the WCW side of things.
No,
And it's such a disaster. Funk even writes in his book how the finish of Gary Hart throwing in the towel wasn't even the planned finish. What do you remember about this
I don't
Thunderdome?
even remember that. I just know the match was horrible. Every time it's kind of like that Tower of Doom we did. We just could have had a regular cage match. You know what
Right,
I mean?
right.
Yeah, it was just hard to work. The guys were trying to climb up things. We went from having these phenomenal matches to something just to a gimmick. A gimmick can be good or it can just kill you.